This is just a quick explainer video about the deferral process. Each agency on their WAP reports has a tab that says deferrals, and that is where you're required to log all your deferrals. I have updated the process as of today. Before, when you would launch the deferral process, it would actually bring up a Google form, and that form would capture all the required fields. I've gotten rid of the form to simplify the process, and you'll notice when you put in a client's name, you'll see where all the required fields are. So let's go ahead and put a client's name in here. And you'll notice that as soon as I put the client's name in, it highlights these other fields. If those fields are empty, they're going to turn yellow, and that's just simply an indication to say you need to put something in there. So again, if we were logging this as a brand new deferral today, you'd put in the client's name. I'm going to go ahead and put in my name. You'll notice the job number column is not highlighted in yellow. You don't have to put in a job number. It's there if it helps your agency keep track of things. Let's say that this job started a few days ago, and while we were there, we ran into an issue that triggered a deferral. So today's the date of our deferral. Today we issued the letter. So let's go ahead and put in today's date for the notice, or the deferral date, and also the date that the notification was sent. And then the other required field here is that you need to select a reason for deferral. Now, I've noticed a lot of agencies are just putting in whatever they want here. That's really not the purpose of this field. If you click on this drop-down menu, this is a list of all of the currently allowable reasons for deferrals or currently required reasons for deferrals. If you're not finding the reason for your deferral on this list, you need to question yourself about whether or not it's a legitimate deferral. Everything listed here should be a pretty good general description of what's going on in the house, and then if you wanted to document some additional details, then you would use the comments field for that. I have added 2 new reasons to this list, and that's just based on current DOE guidance. The top one here says a client refusal for a major measure. If a client refuses to allow you to do attic insulation, wall insulation, or floor insulation, then that is a major measure that they're not allowed to refuse. So you would have to defer the job. With that same scenario, if the client had a bunch of stuff in the way and you need to get to it, you may need to defer the job while they take some time to move the furniture. So let's go ahead and say that that's the reason. We need to get to a basement wall to insulate it, but we need the client to move some furniture. So that's the reason that we put in there. But that's it. Once you've filled in these required fields, you've now started the deferral process for that client. The rest of the columns are really just to track the rest of the process. So let's take this same scenario, and let's say that a couple of days from now the client texts us some photos showing that they've moved the stuff. So we could log that as our re-inspections, and we would also on that same date remove them from our deferral list. And that would kind of be the end of the process, other than you want to come back later when the weatherization is done and log that you actually finished weatherizing the house. But now you've logged the whole process. If there was a different scenario though, let's say that the client never responds to us. They never get back to us. Our letter was clear that if they didn't respond in 30 or 60 days, then we would close their file. So in this case, we'd say client never responded. So there really was never a reinspection date or a removal date, but we'd have a job close date. So let's say that, sometime around the end of May, we end up removing them from our list. And that would be the end of that. What's nice about this is you've logged all that. If the client called you, later in August or something and wanted to reapply, then you could go ahead and say, oh wow, they're ready to reapply. So you log that date, and you could, open up your old file if you still have it, or ask them to start a new one and kind of start the process over. And then again, once you've finished weatherizing their house, you could document that you ended up weatherizing it and show, cradle to grave what happened with that specific deferral. So that's the deferral process. I wanted to just show a couple things with the form in case you have questions about why it's set up the way it is, or if you can modify it in any way. I've highlighted these column headings in purple, and I just put this note here to let you know, please don't mess with those columns. The purple columns, please don't change their titles or move them around. We aggregate those columns for state reporting purposes. But if you needed to on this worksheet, you're welcome to add additional columns at the end of it if there's other data that you'd like to keep track for this process. Feel free to do that there. Just don't rearrange or add anything in the purple area. The other thing I wanted to point out is columns A, B, and C have some data that I use so that it'll aggregate that report properly. Actually, column A is for that. Column B and C is really for you guys. Just trail of breadcrumbs for you guys. If it helps to see when you entered it and when it was last modified, these fields just automatically do that. So you'll notice that the date I entered that was today at 3:02 and 19 seconds, and then it's kind of updated as I've changed stuff. But just to show you what that looks like, let's go ahead and add a job number here, and you'll notice as soon as I add the job number, that last modified date gets updated. So those two are for you guys. I have protected those columns, so if you ended up trying to delete it or something, it's just going to give you a warning. You can still delete it if you want to, but it'll give you the heads up to leave it alone. Column A just has the name of your agency in it. You're welcome to unhide it and check it out if you want, but it just automatically puts that in there for so that it'll pull it into my report. So I just hit it so that it doesn't get messed up. Anyway, if you have questions or if anything's causing you any problems, please let me know. Otherwise, please use this report accordingly.